Hey, this is Chad Michael Collins, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Yes, we got our good friend Chad on. We're doing it COVID style, Chad. We can't meet at Patty's in Toluca Lake, but a big shout out to Patty's because they do a great job by us. And of course, in studio, Scott Huesing.
What's up, everybody? Chad, good to see you again, my brother.
You too, guys. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we last visited Patty's and had some delicious coffee.
Yes. Hey, man, so what's up? You're on fire with this Call of Duty stuff.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. I got to be honest. The game came out last fall and was just super hot out of the gates. And we all kind of knew it would be a really fun ride, being a part of Call of Duty, as successful as that franchise has been. You know, they crank out a game a year. They've been doing it for 15 years. They're always amongst the best-selling games ever made. And you know, we kind of came up with an original, but it was also a throwback to the old school Modern Warfare trilogy. So we knew we were gonna have a lot of fun putting that out there, and I think it made $600 million in the first 72 hours, and it's still, I mean, it was released at the end of 2019, and it was the best-selling game of 2019. Now we're into 2020, and it's the best-selling game of 2020. So the train is still rolling hard, and I think they've cleared like $2 billion, you know, already, and like profit. It's just such a hit, and
You're like 10% of that, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's paid for the work you did, but it's been a real pleasure and a real honor, and you know, particularly related to you guys, you know, being military veterans of high standing like yourself. You know, my character Alex was reintroduced into the multiplayer portion of the game, and they you know, there's a dubious thing where you played the single player campaign of Call of Duty back in October. You know, the players play through that. It's an 8-hour story that unfolds. You get attached to these characters, and my character Alex kind of had a dubious ending where he went off to make a heroic sacrifice. The factory that he's in blows up, and you don't know what happens to him. So they dropped it back in March, April. They made a big reveal that Alex not only survived, but he lost a leg, and he's a soldier still doing the thing, and he's an amputee now, but still out there in the front lines doing it up. And it's been so well received, and such a cool thing to be a part of, that representation with so many of our heroes who have gone through that sort of stuff. So it's been an absolute blast, and it's forced me to pick up the controller and play, and I get it. Like, I get why people love this game. It's so much fun, man. I'm really having a lot of fun with my Twitch streams and stuff like that.
If you're going to get into video games, now's the time, I guess. I mean, the positive things for that industry, and you know, along the representation thing, the commonality too that we found out through several posts in the game is, you know, another good friend of mine, Jade Struck, who's in the image with you. Mm-hmm. You know, I couldn't think of two better people that I know personally in my life that didn't serve, that represent veterans well, but also serve veteran community. You know, Jade and Rudy Reyes are an item, and she supports all the events. You supported our Save the Brave events, and so, you know, a lot of times, you know, guys who've served a long career, you have to look at certain people, and you know, I'm sure there's shots we can be like, that guy's a poser, but like when you know someone like you. Like, you know, your heart's in it too for the right reasons. So that's cool, man. I'm happy for all the success, and I know a lot of veterans play those games.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it inspires some people to want to grow up and be that guy. So you may inadvertently be helping the establishment recruiting effort. You know,
right? I hope we do. You know, and I think the really cool thing about Activision Infinity Ward is they want things to be accurate. They want to really portray this. It's not always pretty, and this is what our heroes go through. And you know, working with the Navy SEALs consultants that we had when we filmed this were extremely helpful, because it's just so important. Between doing Call of Duty and the Sniper movies for Sony, you want to get it right. You know, it is an honor to be able to play a pretend version of what, you know, these brave men and women do all day, every day. And so there's such an attention to detail, especially with Call of Duty, you know, to get it right. And I love that they've plugged in real life veterans into the game. You know, Tulam, Ronin Tactics was an operator that was released when my operator was released in season 3 of the multiplayer stuff in April. And I got to do a photo shoot with him and meet him. And he's an incredible guy. And they've done that with a lot of people who, like you say, Scott, they either support on their end, or they served, and I really really love it. And it's really cool. It's been an honor, and it's been a lot of fun mixing it up with the soldiers who do serve and the veterans who just still love to play this game. It's been an awesome kind of common ground to have with them.
In the gameplay itself, your guy is missing part of his leg, like below the knee amputee. I know that in real life, if you had a guy like that, it would be a constant point of hilarity. He probably would have some kind of. I guarantee you that the guy would have multiple legs on his kit, so that he could do a different thing. Am I right? Like, absolutely. He'd be like, "This is my kit, like leg for climbing a tree, or jacking up a Humvee." Do you guys do anything like that at all in the game?
It was a total surprise to me, and I knew that I'd be coming back, and it was the full NDA thing. You can't say a word about it, of course, because all of these gamers are looking for spoilers and reading into things any way they can to kind of get that hint. But they did tell me when I went back to film some stuff in March that was their vision for it. That was their plan. So, they added all that stuff in digitally, the animators and stuff like that did an amazing job with it. But you make a good point. I mean, honestly, I think one of the coolest things about Alex and representing the amputee soldiers is that every soldier has a finishing move in Call of Duty. If you get into a hand-to-hand combat situation with another player in the battlefield, you can kind of execute a finishing move. And Alex actually does a leg sweep with his prosthetic leg and then takes him out with like a utility hatchet when they're on the ground. And I was like, yeah, we got to do that.
Of course.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like there would be all kinds of things that person in real life would do with their leg, and absolutely a finishing move would be one of them. Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I have been really blown away. There's been a lot of veterans who have tweeted, posted, really praised Call of Duty and Activision Infinity Ward for this choice. I've never Alex so far has been the favorite character. Despite that, you're not sure how the regular players who don't serve are going to take it. But I play and I see more Alexes than any other character running around the battlefield.
That's fantastic.
And so it's been so embraced and so well received, and it's just been a really really cool thing to be a part of for sure.
Do you get personal messages from players or from veterans, and do you have a story that sticks out or something recent that the way it's been a positive thing, not just a mindless numbing of playing a video game that most people, I don't know, maybe most Gen Xers or parents would associate with it, but there's positive stuff that comes out of every form of art.
Yeah, I have gotten a few messages. They thanked our director, some veterans. What I found is that the veterans who have gone through such trauma like that and are still serving, and even if their military career is done as they once knew it, they have such a sense of humor and such a sense of humility about them. And even the posts where they're like, hey, that's really cool, and they send a picture of themselves, and they were like, really cool of you guys to represent, and then they'll make a joke. And I just think that's like, they have such levity about a circumstance that otherwise breaks someone's spirit, and that's been one of the coolest things that I've seen on social media with this.
That's a common theme. I was watching Joey Jones on Fox News. He's like, I don't look at myself as a guy that got blown up and lost both my legs. I look at myself as a guy that got a second chance at life.
Yeah.
And it's so admirable, man. And to get that type of feedback is pretty cool.
I remember a story, like they had a bunch of blown up vets who were riding their bikes around the nation. It's like, standard charity thing you see. We were in Key West, and this guy had half a leg. He's like your character. And he couldn't dive under the fake shark that's hanging fast enough to jam his stump up by that, shark's leg and play the whole thing. Like that is literally like the spirit of a lot of these guys. And
right.
You think about like the time we live in now where having some kind of disorder, mental incapacity, any kind of, I don't want to say handicap, but any kind of like non-perfect life. And you can still, Ivan Castro was blind and still serving as a special forces soldier, completely blind, no eyes, and still out there serving. And, there's so many stories like this where in modern times, not only can someone serve or do any number of jobs, have a viable career without having a perfectly sound body, but also be a hero the number one hero from what you're saying in a 2-year running best-selling video game.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable that any kind of incapacitation has really become, barely noticeable, in terms of in the grand scheme of things.
Right. Yeah, there's they just announced that season 4 of multiplayer will come out. So there's a whole new cast of characters that you can play as, and it's you play as these operators, you play as a skin, as you run around, that's kind of your avatar on the battlefield. And so they've released Captain Price, who is like the famous Call of Duty Modern Warfare icon from the original Modern Warfare trilogy. And they've kind of saved almost like the best for last and stuff like that. So I'm already getting a lot of comments today being like, well, I don't know, Captain Price is awesome, but like I might still just run around as Alex. So it's really kind of cool to see that like they're spoiled for choice amongst their Call of Duty heroes, and Alex is still kind of edging out the competition for now, which is really, really fun.
So I was talking to Pete on the way up. I knew we were going to talk about Call of Duty. Do you like, as an actor, a guy who's been in front of the camera, do you like this type of performance better? Because one of the things I noted was all of the great actors, that's kind of now the calling card. If you're in a Pixar voice, I mean, you got Tom Hanks, you got John Ratzenberger, God rest his soul. You've got so many people, who have started, Tom Hanks playing a cross-dresser on Buzz and Buddies, and, Academy Award winner. Now he does voices too. But do you see yourself going back and forth when Hollywood opens back up after the pandemic, and, you're in front of the camera, you're behind it, you're doing more of the video game or voiceover stuff?
I'm really fortunate in that Sniper for Sony continues to be an ongoing movie franchise, and they keep making more, and I love being a part of those. Hopefully, we keep making more Modern Warfares, and Alex gets to keep, coming back and playing in that stuff. But I love it both. We actors, this was kind of our really first big foray into a video game, the cast of the Modern Warfare game that we made. And, we all came from kind of TV and film backgrounds, and this was like a new thing. It was all the acting that we were used to. It's full voice, face, performance, everything was captured, so it was proper acting, not just, voice recording in a booth. But I just remember how excited everyone got, because we are the video game generation. Like, we came up through 8-bit Nintendo and then Super Nintendo and then all the way through. And so we were like kids in a candy store to be a part of such a massive game when we finally found out what it was. And it was just something extra cool, extra special. And I don't mean to discount television and film at all, because I love that too. But to be a part of a video game is kind of a really fun feather in your cap as an actor, at least for me, because I still game. I've gamed my whole life. So it's been kind of like an extra special bucket list item for me.
You can tell the age gap because he didn't mention Pong, Atari, and television.
Missile Command.
So there's a couple years difference between Jeremy and Pete.
Have you ever used a trackball as a controller?
I don't know that I have done that.
He doesn't know what a trackball is. What's a trackball? Question and ask and answer.
Trackball is like a thing you put your fingers on. It's like a joystick, but it's ball format.
I know what it is. So like Arkanoid, like one of those old.
Yeah.
Like Centipede, the arcade game.
Oh right? Yeah. Okay.
Brian Tice is noting that you killed John Ratzenberger, and he's still alive, according to Brian. So
John Ratzenberger?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what Brian. Brian is saying he's still alive. By the way, you had two guys, I guess, from your school, Greg Starring and Kai Legend. I don't know. Say legendary. I don't know.
That's my buddy Changa Kai Martin. I grew up with back in my hometown in upstate New York.
New York, yeah.
Me and Changa have been we've been squadding up together in Call of Duty. It's a lot of fun. It's actually been an amazing way to reconnect with friends, because they all play, and they've been kind of holding my hand a little bit. Because I was not good. I'm still probably not good. And these guys have been playing for years. So it's been really great to throw on the headset, squat up with them. They're basically giving me the ins and outs and advice on my, gun loadouts and stuff like that. So it's been a really great way to connect with a lot of friends that I probably otherwise wouldn't connect as often. So it's pretty fun.
I'd like there to be an Easter egg character where it's actually Chad, and you come out and you're like, and you're just like,
I've had a few fun comments on social media, basically like, "Yo, can we get an Alex skin with your hair like that?" I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna sell very much.
It's a funny. I had Michael Reagan, Ronald Reagan's son, on, and they were talking about. He does a lot of work with his father's foundation, and they go and they support the USS Ronald Reagan, the ship, and he'll bring other Hollywood friends on. And so he brought, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a voice actor, very notable, and he did Optimus Prime's voice.
Oh, cool.
And, yeah, and so and I think Optimus Prime says something like "Mount up," and he says it in that voice, and every sailor on the deck of that of that ship knew who that was, and so he was voice famous, and that's what's coming for you. Like, you're going to be in all the movies, being the boyfriend and that kind of thing, but you likely are going to find yourself in an airport, and you're going to say something super simple like, "Let me grab my rucksack," and everybody's gonna be like, "There he is."
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I know that voice actors they're extremely popular, from animated shows and stuff like that as well. But I'm kind of lucky in that I can kind of double dip in that, like, the face is mine too, as well. Alex, even though I can't wear a mustache, I can't grow one like the Alex character can, but that's my curse. So it's nice to have the voice component. I actually found some YouTube video where they stripped all my vocal lines from the game and just smashed them all together in a 20-minute video. It's actually really kind of hilarious. Like, I'm just shooting a bunch of battle commands, and if I get shot with friendly fire, I scream some expletive out and stuff like that. It's a pretty jarring, but pretty funny, actually. Everything exists on the YouTube.
While we're doing live, I'm doing some old-timey stagecraft and messing with my window shades, trying to get Scott and I properly.
Tell John I apologize for killing off John Ratzenberger. He is still alive.
John Ratzenberger's still alive.
I wasn't putting any staunch journalistic research into that comment, but yeah, a lot of great actors was my question.
Glad that John Ratzenberger's still alive. One of his
love it. Yeah, what a great show.
One of his great quotes is "Yell McWawa." Next guy's going to be president.
That's a great old show. Hey, here's a question. This is a random question for Chad. What show would you like to star in as a reboot?
That's a great question.
Oh,
like, they're going to reboot your favorite show, reboot, and you get to star in it.
Boy, oh boy, that's a good one. I mean, I'd be last in line because they'd have their pick of actors. But I grew up on a show called Quantum Leap that I just I'm still friends with Scott Bakula. I've known him for years. He's such a great guy. I got to work with him at NCIS New Orleans, and I don't know that a reboot will ever have, but if there's ever a time to reboot a show like that, it is now. And I just thought, what a fun show for him. He did such amazing.
And that's a great concept, man, because there's a lot of new technology where it could be more possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just
you could be the Dean Stockwell character.
Dean Stockwell.
But as your modern war character.
Or Sam. He had Ziggy.
You could be Sam, and then but be your character now from Warzone.
Right.
Because he was a colonel, right? And so now you come back as the colonel of your character from the video game. Anyhow, not to complicate things.
Yeah.
But it was a great show, though. I mean, it was great. You explored history. It's sort of like what Doctor Who does, like same kind of thing where they go back to these moments in time and do things. It's a great idea. What would you put Chad in?
Ooh, I'm the
you're the producer.
I'm the producer of the show. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that right now. I'm trying. And after our '80s album fight with Jay, I'm thinking, like, what was a great '80s show that's about ready to be brought back?
I mean, I grew up on a lot of those. I mean,
I can see him. It's already been rebooted as a movie, but Chips was like a favorite show of mine.
Right.
Like, I could see you as John Baker.
Oh, nice.
The advice.
Dukes of Hazzard reboot. God, there's so many that have been rebooted already, but then there's so many great ones that haven't been, and you kind of wonder why, if it's a right thing or whatever. Somebody else mentioned that, like, CBS is going the way of rebooting a lot of their old stuff, and they're really actively trying to resuscitate their old properties. And someone came across Airwolf.
Oh yeah,
yeah, Michael Vincent.
I never watched that a ton, but I always thought that'd be cool.
Yeah. You have a little Jan Michael look going for you too, so yeah, that'd be a natural fit. Airwolf, Blue Thunder, Roy Scheider. That's a movie.
I'd put you on Love Boat. I'd let you be Captain Stubing. That way you can just age into the role and just kick it.
I don't think
go back and forth to Acapulco all the time on the set.
Give me a ruling on this. I don't think The Love Boat could ever be rebooted because reality shows like The Bachelor have gone so far beyond sex.
Right.
Like it's so out there. Like Game of Thrones is like Game of Porn. So if you brought back like Love Boat, it would be so G-rated no one would watch it.
Scandalous, yeah.
What's new with the Sniper series? Are you guys working on a new one now, or can you even say?
We broke the news a couple weeks ago. The 8th one in the franchise and the 5th one I've been a part of is releasing June 16th. It's called Sniper Assassin's End. They released a trailer a couple weeks ago. I actually finally got a chance to watch a private screener of it last night. It turned out really, really well. It was a lot of fun. We shot it last fall in Vancouver. Me and Tom Berringer back in action, and we have a really amazing female lead. Her name is Sayaka Akimoto. She's an actress and J-pop star over in Japan. She plays kind of our titular assassin in this one, which is really kind of fun. But it was a blast. Sony's really excited about it. We're all really excited about it. Kari Andrews is a director who came on board for the franchise for the first time, and I thought he did a remarkable job. Some things were really fun, very stylized, a lot of hand-to-hand combat stuff, a lot of fighting. In this one, we had an amazing stunt coordinator, fight choreographer named Brett Chan, who does like super high-level stuff. We're really lucky to have him, and he put us through the paces. And it showed, though. It looks really, really good. A lot of action, a lot of fun.
When you're doing that, like I know you keep yourself fit, but are you always working towards some kind of proficiency in a martial art just so you can remain relevant and do these stunts yourself?
Fitness is a lifestyle choice for me. I've always loved athletics and being fit. I really find that any actor who, even if they've never done stunts or like fight choreography before, they can pick it up really fast if they come from a background of like boxing, kickboxing. They don't need to be, black belts in Taekwondo and stuff like that to pick it up, but just knowing how to move in that way. I've seen female actresses who have a dance background who pick up fighting like that. And it's really all about having that spatial awareness, proximity, having control of your body and that muscle memory there. So I find that stuff kind of keeps me grounded. I think kickboxing and stuff like that is really fun. I'm a little high kick chat on that. And I'm like, yeah, send the stunt guy for that one. Like, you want a head kick? Yeah.
I just see the high kicks comparison, you and Pete. I'm thinking Patrick Swayze, Chris Farley on SNL, like skit. Like you and Pete will line that one up. That would be great.
I will kick the hell out of the lower part of your leg, and you will regret letting me do that. But
I will step on your foot.
I'll stomp on your foot. Stomp is an excellent move, by the way. I love it.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it's not as sexy for a movie, the old toe stomp, but it certainly works.
Hey, I know that a lot of authors who write like thriller books, those kind of things, those guys, we've had a few of them on the show, they write a lot of the video game scripts, but has that work moved over to more the Hollywood traditional screenplay person where they do a game, do they call it a gameplay? What do you think about like the evolution of where that stuff's going? Because the story, so many of these things is such a dominant part of the gameplay in modern games.
Yeah, when we filmed Modern Warfare, we never got like a full script. And I imagine if we did, it would be like this. It wouldn't be the standard 90-page movie script.
Right.
You have to. It's not only writing a script based on the plot and the outline and the characters and the dialogue and stuff, but it's also I have seen video game scripts that are literally 1,000 pages because you have to write out and plan everything that a player could do. Whether the player ignores the order here and decides to go over there. We had to film all that stuff. We had to have voiceover lines ready to rock because you want it to be so immersive that the player can literally go anywhere and do anything. So to write that script and come up with all that extraneous dialogue, I was like, what if the player parachutes off the roof? Like, it's like you have to have a line for that to cover it. Otherwise, the game kind of glitches and the player's like, what? I wanted to jump off the roof. Why can't I? So, you have to kind of do that. So we, I don't know. I've had some friends who are feature film screenwriters who've written some video games and stuff. And I imagine it's got to be a gargantuan challenge, but for sure, it's got to be really, really rewarding because you can write a script where literally anything is possible. You're not hamstrung by budget. You're not hamstrung by a lot of other things that you would normally encounter. So,
or there's the guy who's a writer who's that good, who can write not just the baseline script, but every branch plan and sequence and contingency, and no one will ever know that guy's name.
Yeah.
Right.
Like no one will ever recognize him in an airport, but it's got to be, you're right, it's got to be very satisfying to say, I wrote that and we made $2 billion. Because most authors aren't making $2 billion off of
no,
it.
exactly. You know, that's you know, to your point, Scott, you know, we spent some time and got to meet a lot of the geniuses at Infinity Ward, which was the developer that made this called Modern Warfare, along with the Activision and several other partners. And we went to their headquarters, and I'm telling you, it was 2 stories of animators, writers, designers. Like, you would not believe it. Like, you would not believe the details that go into this game. You know, there's a, you know, we had our narrative director, Taylor Kurosaki. We had our regular writer, a guy named Brian Bloom, who's also an accomplished voice actor. We had all of these other guys who were in charge of this type of dialogue, that type of dialogue. You know, we had the scanners and animators putting the costumes on the soldiers and the avatars and stuff. It's you know, some people were literally responsible only for vehicle design, and it's just a million departments, and there's so many unsung heroes, like literally thousands, to put one of these games together in that way. That you're right, you know, walking through an airport, you would never have any idea, but you take that element out and it's like, well, this game sucks. So it's really an interesting catch-22.
Those conversation trees you're talking about, like, again, like if you wanted to be really legitimate, you'd have a couple of things, and I don't know if these things exist already, but you would have a dial where, like, you could set the color of the language, where you could set it to, hey, my kid's playing nothing crazy, to full, you know, Marine. It's like all the conversations are crazy. And then the other thing is the characters would have memories. So like that, remember that time when you tried to jump across the ravine, Pete, and you didn't make it and you were covered in mud all day? It happened again.
Right,
like, have, like memories through the game that you would, because your friends would absolutely pull that stuff out on you, you know?
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's an interesting evolution. And what's fascinating about it, because I've played a lot of I've played the Modern Warfare series on PS3. I love the flying games like Modern Aces, or Ace Combat was one that I remember, and the reality of that, and how also those technologies, which may seem benign, or again to the public, the vast majority of people who never pick up a controller and have judgments about people that sit and go to these gaming parties or they go online, that technology from a military application has influenced what we do, not only in simulation and augmented reality, but also for our wounded soldiers, those guys who you portray, like Alex with the prosthetic leg. We use those same type of technologies, and then we recruit those same types of people from Activision or whatever on contract, and we say, we need you to develop a simulation like this for our guys to heal. Yeah. So, you know, just kind of sharing some background, not getting too heavy in the military thing, but like there's definitely a cross-pollination between that type of technology. I mean, like the delicious Tang you're drinking right now was invented by NASA or whatever, you know, it's right. Like, you know, it will creep into everyone's life one way or the other. It's pretty cool to be a part of that.
No, it's really cool. It really is. And that's a great point for sure. It's, you know, you make something for entertainment, but it also starts to have real life practical, you know, implications and the other end of things. So that's always a great thing. Yeah. I know there's several charities, nonprofits that literally, you know, they're established for vets and helping them, you know, reacclimate into life back here after their service. And a lot of them focus on video games, and it's connecting them with the video game community to really, you know, come back to civilian life and just stay connected to people and bond with people over that. And I know Call of Duty is a big one that helps kind of bring them back together in that way. And I think that's a very, very cool thing.
Rachel Madam asked a great question, one that we probably would ask at some point, so I'm going to give her the credit for it. Hey, Chad, any projects planned for the future? Obviously, Sniper's coming out, but what's after that? I know it's kind of hard to say, but what do you got for us?
It is a little hard to say. Yeah, Rachel's my friend over in the UK. Hey, Rachel, thanks for popping by. Yeah, Call of Duty. is gearing up for season 4 of multiplayer right now. Warzone, which is the big add-on that was really extremely popular when they dropped that in March. So that's still going strong. Sniper Assassin's End comes out June 16th. So I'm very excited for people to check that out. Blu-ray, DVD, digital on demand, Amazon, Google Play, iTunes, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'm like so many of Americans. We were talking a little bit, about this before we hit record. But most of us have been out of work for a while, so we're eager to see the changes, the progress, and getting back to some sort of normal day-to-day thing. But I haven't had an audition in 3 months. I haven't worked in even longer, and I'm gonna try and join the workforce like everyone else when the dust starts to settle a little bit more. So unfortunately, that means I have no other projects that I can talk about right at this time. But I'm eager to get out of the gates and line up that next one for sure.
Yeah, and it's got to be weird for your neighbors when you're practicing your video game sides. Like, what might I come and writing your own scenes and practicing them in your kitchen? Dive rolls and like shooting.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, I only have a few neighbors, and so the weird things I do get up to in here, whether it's a voiceover audition or whatever, once in a while, I think that they understand.
All right, so let me. Okay, obviously hard to have projects coming out, but everybody sort of has their COVID thing they would like to do or intended on doing, and now are 8 weeks into not doing it. But what's your creative outlet? I mean, obviously you don't get to do your regular thing, but you really can do anything. Are you writing that novel? What are you working on?
To be honest with you, I have taken the opportunity to learn how to live stream. So I've been on Twitch, and it was an absolute disaster when I first started, just figuring out how to run this. For those who don't know, Twitch is a really great platform for video gamers to stream their gaming. You have the whole video game in front of you, and you have a little, webcam with their face there, with their headset, and they talk to their audience and stuff like that as they run around and play video games. So I'm like, well, I might as well start playing Call of Duty and streaming it. And it's been really fun, I gotta be honest. And I take one night a week, and all the Call of Duty Modern Warfare gamers, fans, friends that I've made on social media, I say, hey guys, Friday nights, 3 hours, I'm playing with you. And Alex squads up with the players, and I just kind of rotate them in and out, and we run around playing multiplayer on the battlefields. It's been so much fun, and I've met so many really great people of all ages across the world, military veterans, active soldiers, kids, people from South America, the UK, Australia. It's been so much fun to play with these gamers, and it's been such a blast. And it's really cements how far-reaching video games are, like how connected we can be to the world.
Any senior citizens get lumped in there? You ever some 90-year-old World War II vet? He's like, hey, I'm gonna kick your ass, Alex.
Maybe like a butt stroke.
Not yet, no, unfortunately. But the kick my ass part would be appropriate, because again, I'm not very good. And it's funny because you throw yourself into this 6 versus 6, like our team versus them, and whether it's a capture the flag game or whatever else, I'm mediocre at best. These guys are ninjas. They're max level, so good. And so I get it on a squad with them. And of course, the way that it says is well, you can't just go beat up on a bunch of noob players. You got to go play other ninjas. So I'm the one guy in the squad that's actually pretty terrible with these ninjas, and we're running around, and I'm just getting wiped left and right by these players, who many of them are probably 11, 12 years old. They're just wiping the floor with me on there. But it's been a lot of fun, and I get to answer questions and offer some behind the scenes stuff and whatever. And the players have been really, really wonderful and really, really great, supportive, despite all my technical difficulties on Twitch. So I think the quarantine stuff has been a blessing, because it's allowed me to really explore that world and help me connect with people in yet another way. And it's a love fest. They love the game, and I love that they love the game, because it means we get to make the games for them. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's a cool message, I think, to share, that you just said that. It's I get to connect with other people and use this as an opportunity, despite the lockdown and the quarantine, because one of our friends, John Brinkus, hosted this Memorial Day special on Saturday, and I did something else, and I said, well, they said, well, what were you doing last year Memorial Day? And Pete was there. I was standing in front of 8,000 people in Palo Verdes. Nice. And this year I was locked in my ranch, but we broadcast to over 230,000 viewers.
Wow.
And you know, when you think about getting the message out there, it's the same thing as the invention of radio. For gross comparison, is you never thought you could reach that many people with a single press of a button. But there's some goodness to come out of this. I'm sure we will get better. And you know, again, we were talking about, you know, I revel in other people's misery a little bit, but I think, you know, there's a lot of good news stories that are going to come out of this. So
it's nice, you know, in times of crisis, you really see the true heart of America come out in so many ways. You know, people helping each other, people pulling together for this stuff, and it's a bummer, you know, those people always exist and it's wonderful, but it's a bummer that a spotlight doesn't get shined on them more until there's, you know, there's a huge drama or a huge crisis. But, you know, people making masks for each other, new charities have sprouted up, you know, benefit concerts. It's been fantastic. It really has been.
Yeah, especially all the virtual stuff too. Do you follow this on multiple mainstream news media, like all the coverage on that? Is that your gig, or do you like tune that out?
You know, I stay current enough, you know, I don't know, you know, I'm not, like you were talking about before, it's like, you know, I'm not some big rebel that's gonna not adhere to the protocols and stuff like that. But I'm also a guy who, I trust in my health. I trust in my knowledge of health and nutrition. I never react from fear about anything, you know, and so I have been very chill. I've been very cool about the whole thing and just willing to ride it out, and, you know, wearing my mask and doing all the that are appropriate and safe. But I'm also doubling down on taking care of myself with stuff that you're probably, you know, the information is out there, but people have never bothered to look for it. And I think a lot of the fear is, you know, people are looking for love in the wrong places. They're looking for answers with people who don't have them, and they'd rather scare them into higher television ratings than give them anything practical and useful that they could do with their lives. You know, no one is out there preaching, double down on your zinc, people. Like, zinc has been destroying virus since the beginning of time. You know, no one's going to say that. The doctors that do are getting kind of shut down. Now there's so many of them that their voices are actually
drink your kombucha. You got to take care of your gut health. Yeah.
So, you know, for me, I've been fine. I know a lot of people have been very, very scared, and maybe rightfully so, because they have a connection to someone who did get the virus and stuff like that. But you know, knock on wood, none of my family, none of my friends have really encountered it at all. But, you know, I'm taking the steps to just stay extra healthy. You know, I got the time to juice every day during this quarantine, so I'm juicing every day and doubling down on the stuff that I know, you know, is a natural combatant.
What's Pete, this would go out to all the people in the chat room too, is they could respond. What's your most irritating new word that's come into the English language that all these media sources, there's a lot of new words. I think for me, it's a toss-up. One of them is, and I don't say this negatively, they say, we want to thank the essentials. Wow. So like everyone who's like, to be called an essential, like, I think that's offensive in itself. So then everyone else is non-essential. Right. That is the word, we're going to navigate this together. Well, we're not together, we're apart. So I don't know. What's your, I mean, if you've noted like something.
Yeah, I don't like saying that anybody's not essential.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, let's find a different, like, you know, you're a forced laborer. I don't know, something else. And the funny thing is, because you know, I'm part of the media, I'm somehow essential. Like, I'm clearly not essential. Like, I can do my job from the house. So yeah, it's just a weird. I don't like terms that aren't accurate. Like calling something, like back when they were working on trying to get, you know, bathrooms to be unisex. Like, no, not unisex. Omnisex. Like, get the words right. Like, you used Tinder. Excellent earlier.
Or just bathroom.
Just call it a bathroom. Funny. Yeah. Shitter. Open.
Same-sex bathroom, also called bathroom. Like, just
bathroom without all the other language. Well, I don't know. I don't know that anything has really, you know, jumped out at me, you know, at all. I know there's a lot of buzzwords and stuff out there, but they've mostly just like flown over my head. But you actually make a good point about the essential things, because it's like, you know, I think the intent is there. It's like, thank you for being on the front line, but also like, just because you're unemployed and forced to stay at home doesn't mean that you're not important to the backbone of this society, this country.
If you run a tattoo parlor and that's how you feed your family, I'm pretty sure you feel essential. You know,
right. Yeah.
Don't tell me I'm not essential.
Some amount of the word, right?
By the way, we got people from Brazil chiming in on this chat. I mean, this really is a great illustration. Like, you know, we're doing our version of going live. You do it on Twitch, and it's not just that you have to play the game. Like, you can literally follow you on Twitch without playing. Just like Chad's going to play. I don't care to play, but I do want to see. I want to hang out. You know, and it really is something that you can do. And here we are communicating. You know, the Break It Down show, 80 plus countries. You know, like you don't make a sniper movie because, you know, 80 plus countries are not watching. Like, you do it because it's a worldwide thing. Do you ever sit back and think like, holy cow, I'm really touching a lot of lives? Like, there's some guy in Azerbaijan, maybe there's only one, but, you know, whatever you do, they're like, I love Chad's movies. I love Sniper, or whatever it is. You think about that?
I think social media is such a gift for that reason. And just to share, you know, a story recently, I started getting a lot of messages, Instagram stories that I was tagged in, stuff like that. Apparently, the last Sniper movie I did, Sniper Ultimate Kill, is kind of making the rounds on Netflix all around the world. And I was getting messages and pictures and stories about, you know, #1 most watched in Mexico, #1 most watched in Brazil, #1 most watched in India. And I was like, wow, like, that's actually really impressive for a movie that's 3 years old. Like, people are really enjoying it around the world. And that helped me kind of, it introduced me to a whole new part of the world that I maybe hadn't had interacted with, you know. So you were getting some lovely comments for some really amazing people that I have met from Brazil and all over the world who have now come, and we've played together on Call of Duty now, and they've gone back and watched other Sniper movies. So it's really just wonderful. And I think you're right, Pete. Like, it blows the mind, you know, the reach that you have with some of this stuff now, how connected we really are in this world. You know, it's a global thing, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And I like to make time every day to try and interact with as many people. You know, I don't consider them fans. It's like you took 10 seconds out of your day to say, hey, I really like that thing that you did. And I'm like, I can certainly take 10 seconds back and say, I thank you. I really appreciate it. How are you? You know, we're friends. We're not fans, you know, and I can't spend the time with everybody in person, but social media is such a great way to have an appreciation fest and you know, people get a chance to be seen and to be heard and express gratitude. And I think that's always kind of what makes the world go around here. So it's really
you're really good about that. You have a great positive attitude about everything since we've met. And you're right. You don't have to write a 10-page soliloquy, but to acknowledge someone on social media, that does not take a lot. And I think that really means a lot to, I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of people, and you're right. Like, you get a lot of the great, and then you get a little of the crazy along with it. And, you know, that's just part of the business when you share a lot of yourself on screen or in person or whatever it is you do on the air. But I love it too that you said how it continues to grow. And to anyone listening out there, if you're selling apparel or movies or books or cars, that thing, that message, it's new to everyone that's never heard of it.
Absolutely. And
if you're willing to share that and market it and put it out there a little bit more, or 3 years later or 4 years later, it may be new to everyone else. So just, great stuff, Chad. I mean, I love the way you do that and continue to put it out there in a positive way.
I think it's great, man. I really love it. You know, to echo my point I made earlier, it's like, I'm pretty fortunate to do what I do, and it's not lost on me, you know, that without fans, without gamers, without people watching these movies, I don't get to do what I love to do. So really, it's, you know, without them, we can't do what we're meant here, you know, to do in that way. And I love them all, and I've been really lucky. You know, I haven't been trolled very much. 99.9% of the people are just wonderful, beautiful. They make unbelievable, you know, pieces of art and fan art and all sorts of amazing stuff. They're sharing their accomplishments as Alex in Modern Warfare, and it's just fantastic. I love it all. And we've kind of, my social media following is that it's not mighty, but it's not tiny either. But I feel like the community is really tight knit. And, what you were saying, like when I go on Twitch and I stream, the chat room just goes for 3 hours and they're all friends with each other now. And they're all connecting, no matter what walk of life, no matter what country they're from. You know, some are staying up till 5 a.m. to like catch the thing so they can make, you know, connections with new friends in the chat room, you know, and I might not even be able to see who they are in that way. And I think it's a really, really wonderful thing. And you know, the quarantine thing has been kind of a really nice silver lining because people are engaging and finding those connections however they can right now. And luckily we have the technology and the infrastructure to allow that to happen. Yeah,
it's really cool. And not to blast past this point too quickly, but man, it really is cool that you do that you take the time. And I'm the same way. My following isn't huge or anything, but the show has done really well. Like, it has its own name. And I consider the folks that listen, you know, whether they're new or old, like they're my friends, you know, and I want to hear from them. And shout out to Judy for reminding me, because I always intend to get a hold of you. I don't want to bug you, you know, but I know it's a yes and we're going to talk. But for her to go, hey, I want you guys to talk again. It's like, what a wonderful thing to have someone say, can you guys get back together and have a conversation? And so thanks to Judy for doing that. I want to ask the first question you asked a little while ago. In the new Sniper Assassin's End, do you get to build on the father and son relationship? Do you guys go fishing? And then I would ask, I heard the Tom Berringer character likes to build like, you know, ships in a bottle. And I know you got like gluing and making popsicle stick sculptures. Do you guys take naps? What do you guys do together as a father and son?
Yeah, I think that's, excuse me. This movie actually starts to explore a little bit more of the father-son relationship between Thomas Beckett, you know, the original sniper, Tom Berringer, and Brandon. You know, Tom was a soldier. He was not around. And Brandon kind of found his own path. And the movies kind of bring them together slowly over the years. This one really does feel like there's some really nice father-son moments that you haven't seen before. And I think that that's really quite cool and really, really nice. You know, it's always a good thing to make that baton handoff from the original to the next wave kind of thing. And I think they did a really nice job here. I won't spoil it about us going fishing or not, but you know, Pops always wants to go fishing. He's like, come pay me a visit, let's go fishing. And so that line may be mentioned again in this movie, but I won't spoil whether the fishing trip actually happens or not in this one. But Tom is back and he's fantastic to work with, and he's the OG. Like, he's the original sniper, and you know, he's a legend, and I'm a huge fan, and we always have a blast filming together.
Do you have a question?
No, I'll wait for the next one up there.
Is there another one up here? Let me take a look and see. I'm trying to keep track of these. As you know, the comments can go by pretty fast as I'm paying attention to you. Let's see here. I'm going to put some more of these up. Oh, so handsome inside and out. Thank you very much, Giovanna. I appreciate it. Also, a little closer to the camera.
She's the sweetest. She's very good at Modern Warfare, by the way. We played last week, and she's a freaking black belt. It's impressive.
Scarlett's mom is 94 years old and is crazy about Chad. We got to get Scarlett playing some of the Warzone game. Get in there, and she could be Alex, and you guys could just go at it and do like a mono thing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, Scarlett's down, and I believe she's in Brazil. So I apologize if I got that wrong. South America for sure. And she is. I don't know that she plays, but she comes on the Twitch stream, and now she's got like a million other friends that are in there in the chat and whatever, and is very supportive and very cool. And yeah, she's been showing pictures of me in the sniper movies and stuff to her mom, and they all watched it together, I think, as a family. And she's like 94 years old. Like, this is my mom, and I'm like, you know, let me do a video, like let me say hi to her and like show her and stuff. So it's just like she's like my mom now too. It's great.
I mean, it's literally as if you're in their house, you know, like coming in and hanging out. Like, it is. It's such a. This is the great thing about social media. You know, the few bad things that happen, you really let those go and just celebrate these things, man. I love it. I think it's just fantastic.
It's great, especially, you know, the stuff with the kids, you know, the kids who love these games. It's so fun to give them a shout out. It's so fun to like thank them and whatever else, because they, you know, this is, I remember growing up playing video games. I remember how into it I was, and for them to be fans of the next generation growing up, and there's actual actors. You know, I grew up with like Nintendo and Super Nintendo. There was no voiceover actors. There's all blips and bleeps and blops, you know, whatever else. But like, they have real faces. They have real actors behind the heroes of their video games. So to be able to kind of break that fourth wall down and be like, I see you, man. Like, keep on going. And it's like, thank you. Thank you for the post. Thank you for the shout out, you know, whatever else. it's a really cool, fun thing to do, and it tends to make a difference, and I'll keep on doing it.
Yeah, I think the accessibility too is if you're 90 years plus and you're dropping in just to watch it as a form of entertainment because you see your grandkids are in there and like you're supervising to a degree, but you're also enjoying it. And then you don't even necessarily have to get in your car to go buy the disc anymore. You just download it and, through Netflix and, Roku, everything, Apple TV. It's from where I was as a 10-year-old kid to now. The technology is just a mind blower.
VHS tapes. I'm sure I got my old VHS collection back in my parents' attic somewhere.
We had a guest on the show last week. His name was Henry, and he was a World War II paratrooper, and he jumped in to St. Mary Glees on D-Day, and his experience from that point forward is absolutely a first-person shooter. Like all of the stuff that we know of history and from the movies, he did it. He did the hedgerow fighting, mano a mano, like, either you're dying or I'm dying stuff. He got pulled into a prisoner of war death camp, all these crazy things. Wow. I was thinking about that. Like, I can't comprehend what he went through, but because I played some first-person shooters things, like, this is what your life is. Like, if you were to write a script, you would write this script and give him these impossible situations. And he's very open about what he had to do to survive. Right. There's even things like, these other things are so horrible, I can't even tell you. And he's talking about killing people with his bare hands. It's bonkers. Yeah. How do you wrap your head around that, man? Like, when you think about, what warriors have to do to go out and, it's one thing to kill someone on a video game because it's not real. But these folks that have to really go out and do it, SEAL Team 6 guys that are constantly training for this, constantly working on it, how do you wrap your head around that in a way that makes any kind of sense to you?
I mean, as someone who has not even the closest remote experience, like I don't even know, it's a different, Scott could probably, inform us all a little bit better than I could. I just know that when I play Call of Duty, there are certain times where like my adrenaline is just spiked, and like it's a video game, but it's a very realistic video game, and it's not to be taken lightly. It's a little bit grim when you think about it. We're video games of soldiers running around basically shooting other soldiers, so it's a little bit kind of grim. You can kind of take a little bit of solace and comfort in the fact that like it's not real. However, there are definitely times, especially when I first started putting in the hours, where I'm like, my adrenaline is like through the roof right now, because like I just got sniped from a building. I didn't even see it. All of a sudden there's a gunshot that goes off and like pings a wall next to my head, and I'm like, the mentality, to be able to go and do that and to bravely do it again and again and again and again. It's something you guys can attest to, but for sure, it's a totally different mindset.
You guys who participate as actors or voice, or the companies that make these hyper realistic video games that glamorize use of guns and violence, like do you as the talent hear a lot of the backlash? Because I don't track that. Those stories really don't get covered. I mean, the NRA is always getting thrown under the bus and raked across the coals for this, that, and the other if there's a shooting, but you don't see a lot of that in the mainstream news media about, hey, well, no one's protesting Activision headquarters or PlayStation 3 or whoever owns these games across the board. Do you get informed of that, or do you get any comments from people like that?
I don't typically. I think there's a lot of parents who are like, you're 10 years old, you're not playing this game. It's meant for 17 and up. But a lot of younger kids still find their way to it and they still play. Once in a while you see an article or an argument trying to be made about violence in video games and how that relates to whatever. And then, the studies show that even violent video games don't necessarily predict the express of violent behavior. A lot of the school shootings, of this, that, whatever, a lot of the stuff comes from medications and, mental distress, disease. And a lot of it looks a lot more like, nurture, rather than picking up a video game and deciding like, this is a good idea, to do something heinous. So, there really hasn't been, I think most people have an understanding like this is not real. Even if it's portrayed realistically as you can, you have the option of hitting that power button and turning it off anytime, and never be kind of harmed in that way. So I've had that experience.
That's my response to all of the people. Like, you have the decision to buy the game, supervise your child, and also turn it off if you think it's too much. To not go back in there.
Yeah,
like that's a decision, because it's being marketed as a form of entertainment, and whether you love it or hate it, you know, if quilting's your form of entertainment, you know, you could stab yourself with a needle. I don't know. You know, there's an argument to be made for everything, but you know, it's just interesting. And I'm not putting you on the horns of a, you know, empirical research, you know, dilemma where you have to have these stats and everything. But I just think that, you know, it's funny because we talk about this and we make comparisons, but again, I go back to my comments about the technology and how it's used for good to help our military, help first responders. I mean, even people in the medical profession, a lot of these technologies are used for virtual and augmented realities that really help save lives. And I don't know, I'm sure there's plenty of people like, oh, you do video games for a living? Like, oh, video gamers. And the people scoff. But man, this is a multi-billion-dollar business. You know, it's big business, and there's a lot of different applications for it. Is the point I'm trying to make, which I'm sure you see.
Yeah, you know, and you're right. If you don't want to, you know, run the risk of peeing your pants, don't go watch the horror movie. You know, it's kind of one of those things. You know, whereas a real soldier's experience, they might find themselves in situations where they don't have the choice. You know, and that's the big difference. And I think that is understood by most people. So fortunately, I have not run into too many of those controversial arguments gone the other way and thrown that at me. You know, you know, there is a disconnect. It is make believe in a way, and it's not for everyone. Well, so you have that choice.
Well, I love what you do for veterans, one, and I love the character, and also his call sign is Echo 3. You know, I was Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, so I have a strong affinity for that. And I think what's important during this show too is not just the great success you've had, you know, on the screen and with the game, but the positive message, brother, that you are constantly sharing. No one should be tearing you down, because, you know, guys like you, we love lifting you up, man, because the message is there, and the way you support our veterans, that your fans, your friends, us. I mean, we just love it, man. And I wish you continued success through the summer when we gear up and we get through this pandemic and crazy times, man. We just can't wait to do this again in person, man.
Oh yeah,
it's a genuine smile. I'm having a great time talking with you, man. I wish we were at Patty's, but I know this comes across, so I'm going to shut up. But just, yeah, man, thanks for doing what you do.
Well, thanks, guys. That's very, very sweet, very, very kind of you, and I really appreciate it. And hey, if they bring me back for another Modern Warfare game, I'm gonna try and talk to the brass, like, yo, we need to get Pete and Scott as, like, you know, operators in the game. Let's get them up here. Let's suit them up. Let's scan them in. Let's have them run around the battlefield.
Let me tell you something. You need a spy on your team all the time. I will find things out. I will do it.
Okay, good. Just, I need you there to tell me not to step on the claymore that someone put.
Don't step there. Step there.
Step around the claymore, man.
They absolutely have those characters, though. You go seek advice and find things out. They absolutely have those characters. And Scott would be awesome, because his answer is launch a missile at that building.
Well, that's up to the player, right?
Yeah. Everybody's just throwing all kinds of love at you. There's one more question that came through, and I've kind of lost track. I think Rachel asked it. She said, and this is a good question: How are you keeping fit during the quarantine?
I'll tell you what, I'm not keeping as fit as I'd like. You know, my gym went away, my basketball went away. You know, I'm making do. You know, I've got a little space here, and I've got some modest weights that I try and throw around once in a while. I've been riding my bike a little bit more than I normally would with the mostly empty streets, which has been great. But yeah, I'm really antsy to get back in a gym with, like, proper equipment. You know, I had a pull-up bar that I literally donated 2 weeks before quarantine, locked everything down, and, like, pull-up bars were like the first thing to sell out on Amazon. Like, you couldn't get one. You probably still can't get one. I know people have been desperate for home fitness equipment, and it just, like, sold out everywhere now. So, you know, it's a lot of push-ups. I'm probably doing a lot of stuff that, you know, Scott is very familiar with, the natural body weight stuff, and a lot of push-ups and what Marines kind of do all day, every day with that. So, you know, I'm doing my best. I'm just trying to maintain, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing is like I'm not been eating a lot because I'm kind of a sloth and I'm kind of home every day. And I'm like, well, I don't need to have 3 squares, 4 squares like I normally would if I was really active because I'm just kind of sitting around a lot more. So I'm finding the counterbalance there. So, we're maintaining.
Rachel, zinc, kombucha, crunches, and push-ups.
Don't eat so much, fatty.
Thrive in quarantine. That's all you need.
Zinc.
Yeah.
We've been hammered with you for an hour. You want to ask us anything? This is your shot. Otherwise, I'm good with questions.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious if if you guys ever pick up Call of Duty when we can get online and play together.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
That sounds like thrown down.
I have
fishing
I don't even have I have to go to someone's house. But what platform? I would love to play. I don't even know the first thing.
Yeah, I bought it on Xbox when it first came out, but now I moved everything over to my PC here because I find it's a little bit easier to stream on Twitch through with your webcam setup and everything else. So I've had to kind of relearn the game with a keyboard and a mouse, which I'm actually having a lot of fun with. But I think it's like on every platform, in that way.
We'll sort it out. We'll set it up. That sounds
that sounds like fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you. They're doing comments faster than I can even put them up. So I apologize, but thanks again, man. Thanks, Judy, for recommending this, ladies. Anytime, break it down. Sure, there are other episodes with Chad. Check them out. Definitely check out Sony's Sniper, any movie in the series, because there are so many of them. And of course, go play the Call of Duty with Chad and follow him on Twitter, and you'll find out when he's playing and actually play with him. So, thank you again, man. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Really great to see you again. Let's do it in person soon.
You got it. Patties.
Yeah, patties.